the second night. On the second night, when the full moon rose high above the silent palace, Scheherazade began her tale. She said, "O King of Time, fortune turns like the wheel of heaven, and none may know where its rim shall rest. Hear now the tale of the first old man and the gazelle." She continued, "It is told, O King, that there once lived a certain old man, wise in years and humble in spirit. He owned great herds and estates, fields of golden grain, and flocks beyond counting. But of all his treasures, he loved most dearly his wife and his son. The boy was the light of his eyes and the hope of his old age. Under his father's care, he learned to read the stars, to guide the herds, and to speak kindly to all creatures of the earth. His heart was gentle, and his laughter brought joy to the house. Yet joy, O King, is a bird that never stays long in one place. One day, while the old man journeyed far across his lands to collect his rents, he left his household under the care of his wife. She was fair to look upon, but dark in heart, and her soul was clouded with jealousy and deceit. For the old man had taken another wife in his youth, a woman of good heart, who had borne him this very son. The first wife, barren and envious, nursed her hatred in silence until it grew into a venom that poisoned her soul. When the husband departed, she went to a woman who dealt in forbidden arts, one who whispered to jinn and stirred the air with charms of ruin. Together, they plotted the destruction of the boy and his mother, where the moon was thin as a blade, and the night wind carried no sound. The sorceress came to the house. She drew strange signs upon the floor and muttered words older than men remember. Then she mixed powders of red and black and called upon spirits unseen. And lo, O King, when the dawn came, the sun was no longer a youth of flesh and bone, but a gazelle, graceful and silent, with eyes full of sorrow. His human tears glistened still upon his soft brown coat. The cruel wife laughed, for her revenge was complete. But the mother, awakening to the sound of hooves where her child once slept, fell to the ground, wailing her grief to the heavens. When the old man returned from his journey and saw his house in mourning, he cried out, "What is this sorrow that has befallen my home?" His first wife wept false tears and said, "O husband, your slave woman has bewitched your son and fled with her magic. The boy is lost forever." But the second wife, the true mother, could not speak for grief. She threw herself before her husband, crying, "It is I who am wronged. Ask the Lord to reveal the truth, for the guilty walk in shadow." The old man, torn between doubt and pain, sought the counsel of the wise, yet none could undo what had been done. He wept until his eyes grew dim and his beard silvered like frost. One night, as he sat beneath the stars, the gazelle came to him from the garden. Its eyes shone with human sorrow, and as it gazed upon him, tears welled once more. The father's heart stirred, and he whispered, "By Allah, those eyes are the eyes of my son." He went to the holy man of the village and told him all that had passed. holy man, pure in heart and mighty in faith, took up his staff and said, "Bring the gazelle before me." He recited sacred verses and cast salt upon the ground. Then he raised his hands to heaven and prayed, "O you who turn night into day and grief into mercy, reveal the truth before us." And behold, before the eyes of all who stood there, the form of the gazelle trembled and changed. The air shimmered as though the world itself held its breath. And in the place of the gazelle stood the young man once more, his face radiant with life. The father wept with joy and fell upon his son's neck, praising the Almighty for his justice. But the false wife trembled, for her deceit was known. The holy man spoke, saying, "Evil done in secret is seen by heaven. Let her be punished as her malice deserves." So the father, with sorrow and resolve, turned to his servants and said, "Take her away, for mercy is not for those who destroy love with envy." Thus the wicked woman was cast out. But heaven's justice is never blind. As she fled, her form began to waver. Her limbs grew slender. Her voice turned to a cry. And before the eyes of all, the envious wife became a gazelle, condemned to wander the desert she had wished upon the innocent. The holy man lifted his hands and said, "Let her roam as the creature she envied, so that in each mirror of still water she may remember the face she betrayed." When the old man had finished his tale before the demon, he said, "This, O mighty spirit, is my story. If you find it wondrous, then grant 1/3 of this merchant's life in my name." The demon pondered for a moment, his burning eyes softening. Then he said, "Your story is indeed strange and full of marvel. I grant what you ask." And so 1/3 of the merchant's life was redeemed. But before the demon could strike again, the second old man stepped forward, leading 2 black dogs by chains of silver. He bowed deeply and said, "O dread spirit, if you will hear my tale and find it more wondrous still, grant yet another 1/3 of this man's life." The demon folded his wings of smoke and fire and said, "Speak then, and I shall judge." Scheherazade looked toward the king and smiled faintly. "But, O king," she said softly, "the tale of the second old man and the 2 black dogs, that is a story for another night." And as the stars faded before the coming dawn, the king, his heart caught between awe and wonder, spared her life once more. Thus ended the second night.